Banter Bible, where have you been?
We're back.
We're back. We're
For
back
our-
with a new and improved version of Banter Bible.
For our tens of viewers
Okay, nice.
who've been lonely for us.
Hey, we're going to be trying to, continue with the banter, but trying to get some Bible reading going on there. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. You know what I think we should read? Philippians.
We're going to read Philippians. All right. And
I think we should read Philippians.
And then I think when we're talking about the book of Philippians, I think what we're trying to do is what it says in Psalm chapter 1. We're trying to promote the delights of God's word.
Nice. Can you recite Psalm chapter 1?
Well, if you would have let me know before we started recording, maybe yes, but no, I cannot.
Something about trees planted by the water.
Yes, that's where that all comes from.
Something like that. Well, Carly, what have you been doing? It has been a hot minute since we've had a little banter, a little Bible. It's post-COVID now. So what have you been doing?
I would like to say that I've been traveling a little bit, which I'd like to continue to do. Mexico is a great place. I highly recommend it. California as well. Let's see what else. Doing a little preaching every so often. Those kinds of things. How about for you?
Well, I've gotten a new job post-COVID. And I know. Who knew that anybody would want to hire me?
Oh, nice.
But I have, so that's kind of fun. And just trying to, okay, Carlin, I don't know about you, but going into the COVID season was really, really hard, right? It was like this sudden shift into COVID mode. And for me, coming out of the COVID season the COVID era has also been difficult, in a different way, but also sort of, traumatic. And I feel like I have, post-traumatic stress disorder in some ways now. I'm always looking for that mask. Where's my mask? Do I need it? Should I have it anyway? I don't know. What do you think?
I would like to say that COVID was a huge blessing for me because I just love being by myself, and it was a lot of fun. I feel more post-traumatic. You know what though? Going to the coffee shop is a lot more fun today than it used to be during the COVID days. So I will give it that. So, but I also have to say that for me, I thought that there was, and you have to speak to this to yourself, but I thought there was a lot of growth that happened through that COVID time. And maybe just because you don't have that, it wasn't as loud for me. And because of that, I was able to sort of get into God's word, and I felt like my prayer life improved during that time. So while there was a lot of difficulties on the one hand, I thought there was some other good things. And those are the kinds of things that I think you learn through a COVID that you want to take with you. And I think that's part of what sort of is our Genesis, or what would you call it? Our Exodus, because it's not the Genesis, it's the return. It's the return of what we're trying to do here, and just trying to bring some of that COVID experience back in here through reading God's word together, and just sort of encouraging one another to say, hey, let's hang in there and bring with us some of those things we learned.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely. And I just want to note the shift in my lighting while you were talking, and my lighting kind of shift. And now I look like a little bit jaundiced, but I'm not. But
I thought it was just your hair. Just
look. Okay. I agree with you. I am also all for alone time. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, the trauma of coming out of the COVID isolation, is that it just seemed really abrupt to me. And so it was like all of a sudden we're like, boom, we're supposed to be back to normal. And I think it's harder than we thought it was going to be, I think. Yeah. But I agree with you. This is a great time. We learned a lot of things, and we learned a lot of things about technology, and we learned a lot of things about communicating with one another. Maybe, oh, see, I've gone again. Now I've gone blue. We learned a lot of things about keeping track of one another. And so I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to get back into God's word and see what he has to say from Philippians, which is in the New Testament. If you don't know, it's among those books that the initials spell out, go eat peas and carrots.
Some people would say that.
So it's Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and carrots. Colossians.
Well, the rest of us would say God eats popcorn, but at any rate, we're going to be on the peas or the pop part of the corn and looking at Philippians. So how much are we trying to read next week, by the way?
Oh, I think we should just read a chapter. Let's not get overwhelmed.
One chapter. And then as we come back together, so our idea here would be that everybody reads Philippians chapter 1, and then we come back together next week. And we're going to spend some time just thinking about what does Paul have to say to us in Philippians chapter 1, and how does that relate to us in this post-COVID world that we live in, and how can we apply it to life? So I think it's just kind of it's our way of getting ourselves accountable to each other and spending some time in God's word together.
Sounds very fun. Maybe we should talk a little bit about Philippians. You mentioned that it's authored by Paul, who is an apostle of Christ. He didn't travel with Christ. He actually persecuted the new Christians, but then he had this really dramatic experience and he became a follower of Jesus and a really outspoken proponent of Christianity. And so he wrote, a Bible scholar, how much of the New Testament did Paul write?
58. I'm not sure. It's he wrote a significant part of it, and he did a lot of church planting and interacting with the Jewish and unbelieving world. And so here he is writing from prison towards the end of his life in the book of Philippians. And so one of the things that I think you get out of Philippians is that this is all of this guy's experience, all of his theology comes together and gives us a pretty remarkable challenge to living out the Christian life. So to me it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how many others out there have a boyfriend, a Bible boyfriend or girlfriend, but I have a Bible boyfriend and it's Paul, and my husband Brent is perfectly fine with that. Paul's been dead many, many centuries, so he's not really a threat. But I just love the way that Paul speaks in all of his writing, and his devotion to Christ is really inspiring to me. So Carlin, who is Paul writing to?
Well, I think it's going to tell us right there at the very beginning. You get right into it in Philippians chapter 1. He's going to tell you who he's writing to.
Very good.
So that's got to be part of our discussion next week.
Okay.
And then as he does that, he's also speaking beyond to you and I. So, I mean, there's always this near and far view in mind that we have as we look through the Bible. But I think Philippians is one of those books where there's just so much direct application to us that I think we'll have a good time reading that together and listening in on what Paul is telling those Philippians.
So when you say direct application, you're saying that as we read Philippians, we should be able to read it and understand how we can use that. I've gone yellow again. How we can use that rather than just reading it and sort of being like, oh, this was in Jesus' time and this is what that's for. Yeah,
I think so, because the goal of any Bible reading is to apply it to life, that it does something in real life. Sometimes we just have to come up with principles that we apply, but I think in a book like Philippians, there's going to be things that he says that are going to be I can just directly take that home and put it into practice. So that part of it, I think, is going to be easier for us to do and a good starting place for us, and then we go from there.
Cool. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. So you find yourself an old school Bible. I'm going to be reading out of the NIV. I think Carlin reads the what?
Christian Standard Bible.
Okay, Christian Standard, you can find a Bible app on your phone, or if you've got one musty dusty in the house, wipe it off. It doesn't really matter what version you read. It might be helpful to read a couple of different versions over the course of the week to sort of help you drink in what you're reading, but we'll read that. We'll come here next week, same time, same, I was going to say bat channel, but it's the same Bible channel. And we look forward to seeing you again then. We're going to have a good time. Banter Bible, Book of Philippians. See you then.